Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso at thewatchbox.com, your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see here on our channel. It's in the description below. Reach out to me directly, tmosso at thewatchbox.com. If there was any lesson that Omega learned from the Omega Mania auction of the late 2000s, it was that a huge appetite existed for Omega vintage sports watches, and the Ploprof, originally the Seamaster 600M, was at the head of the line for resurrection when it bowed in 2009 at Bezel, and that is the watch we have right here, the 2009 Resurrection, stainless steel and oddly proportioned. Although it's a 55mm width, one can't properly call that diameter because it's not a circle. It's actually 48mm from lug to lug, which makes it surprisingly wearable. And at 17.8mm thick, it's not fitting underneath any cuff, even if you're pushing a snowblower. There is a broad spacing between the lugs of 24mm, but as you can see from the underside of the lugs, they are conventional. If you have a 24mm custom strap, it will fit. Now, throwing the watch on my 16cm circumference wrist, you can see why I describe the watch as unusual in its dimensions and proportions, because across the wrist it's just not that broad. 48mm is not very wide. In fact, it's considerably less than a Daytona or a Submariner on a solid end link bracelet, which means you can see that strap flares out quite a bit on both sides, and I can actually recommend this for a wrist as small as 14cm circumference, as long as you're okay with the thickness. You can see no shirt sleeve is getting up over that case flank, and the watch is broad, but it's broad down and along the wrist. So this is a timepiece that wears unconventionally, but I know one editor-in-chief of a prominent watch magazine whose wrist is no larger than mine, and he wears this watch every day. The watch is hefty. There's no two ways about that, and that even on a strap. Believe it or not, there is a mesh bracelet that adds even more considerably to the heft of the watch. The strap is best described as indestructible. It's also stylized with orange striations, the raised and relieved Omega logo, and a nice matte finish on its flanks. Ploprof, plongeur professionnel in French. The most advanced Omega diver back then and today. There is a deployant clasp which combines satin and polish for high horology flair, a deeply engraved Omega hippocampus or seahorse, and then twin trigger release. You can see this thing is like a block of solid steel. Now there's a push button slider, and unlike the conventional Seamasters, which feature just under 10mm of adjustment, this one features more like 20. There's also an all-or-nothing pull-out dive extension that feels like it has itself been machined from a solid block of steel, so you get almost 50mm of total adjustment, and for those of us in the old colonies, that means you get about 2 inches. It is a truly impressive mechanism that offers a huge amount of adjustability and, if you must, full extension over a dive suit. Now, the case is handsome, and it's also distinctively 70s, as there's a lot of unconventional satin finishing and a combination of angularity and curves. You can see that angularity in the surround for the plunger system that unlocks the bezel. That's what that system does. That little trigger unlocks the bezel. There's a helium escape valve down at the bottom, which is not a feature on the original 600M from the 70s. It is a feature on this 1200M diver. You can also see that there are sharp edges to the case. They're not ergonomically sharp, but they're visually sharp. There are a few handsome and well-chosen polished bevels, and you can see there's one that runs the entire perimeter of the case. There's also a remarkable pagoda-like crown guard structure. The crown works differently than on the original. Here, it's more like a conventional crown, but with stanchions that retract on each side. It gives you that all-aspect impact protection and shearing protection that you get with a Panerai Luminor, and then the knurling on the crown, alternately satin finished and polished, is very deep, so it's easy to grip the crown. You can see one feature of the caliber 8500 is the ability to move the hour hand independently, which is great if you're traveling and you're jumping time zones. You can see I can turn the date in both directions, and the watch continues to tick. Maintains the minute hand in its current position, and of course there's a stop second or hacking feature. Now the watch, of course, can be wound with that crown, but conventionally it's an automatic winder with bidirectional action. One of the changes that was made when this watch was updated after 2014, the watch gained a new ceramic bezel insert. These earlier models feature a fully loomed bezel with a sapphire cap, which I really like because it gives that depth and richness and glossy gleam that you get on something like a Bremont Supermarine or a Blancpain 50 Fathoms. You can also see that the watch features a gloss black dial with applique indices and an applique Omega logo and marquee. I should mention one more time, because you only saw it off axis, that the bezel moves in both directions, so you can line it up easily for an impromptu 0 to 60-minute timer, but you need to push the plunger to unlock it. That's how that system works. So it's sure tight until you unlock it. Now it has a larger minute hand. You'll see why that is when we do the loom shot, making it easier to distinguish the minute hand against the bezel. And it's just a very thoughtfully designed watch, as you can quickly use this as a chronograph surrogate, whether you're submerged or on the surface. Solid case back, coaxial caliber 8500, which is an ETA design, but it's exclusive to the Omega brand. Beating away at 25,200 vibrations per hour, it has 2 mainspring barrels and a 60-hour power reserve, the twin barrels ensuring even torque release from maximum to minimum wind and avoiding the huge drop-off of amplitude that single-barrel designs often see after 24 or 48 hours. Now, it has the time zone feature for the hour hand. It has the stop seconds. It's tough with a full balance bridge and a free-sprung index. It's very shock-resistant, and it is both a COSC certified Swiss chronometer adjusted in 5 positions and a tri-level coaxial, Omega's most durable and precise coaxial system. Remember, George Daniels of Britain inventing the coaxial in 1974, Omega industrializing it in 1999. 10 years later, this watch arrives with the coax that is low maintenance, super durable and precise, all of that in one, in a case that will never be mistaken for anything else. This is Omega's highest diving tech in one of Omega's shockingly most ergonomically correct case designs. Email tmosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. And we're back in the dark with the Ploprof. Note the fully loomed bezel.